Monday night, Chiefs-Rams was a beautiful exposition of what MVP play looks like at the quarterback position with Patrick Mahomes and Jared Goff putting on a show that I think put them into, or perhaps took them out of, the spot they were in the MVP conversation. But both of those guys, I think, in our top four. Let's talk about the top spot first. Last time we met, I said it was Drew Brees. There's no way it's not Drew Brees. You went with Patrick Mahomes. Give me your take right now where it stands.
Obviously, it's Brees, I think, right now, after Mahomes made enough mistakes last night to lose them, to have them lose a game in LA. However, I will say, the Saints have one of the toughest schedules moving forward here. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have one of the easier schedules, relatively speaking. And so, Mahomes at his big-time throw rate of almost 7% versus Brees at 6%, there is an opportunity for him to sort of put together enough really big plays to sort of get himself back in that conversation. But I would say, for right now, Drew Brees is probably the leader of the pack.
Drew Brees is making a ridiculous number of accurate throws. We chart ball location for every throw, and when you look at those throws that we term accurate, those are either on the receiver's frame or perfectly in stride. 75% of his targets are accurate. That is unbelievable. It's first in the NFL by a mile. It's the best we've seen in all 3 years that we've been doing this, and he's limiting the uncatchable throws. You talked about those turnover-worthy plays. He's the only quarterback below a 10% catchable throw rate. So you add all those things together, I just don't see Drew Brees falling off. I do think Patrick Mahomes can jump up there, but based on what we saw last night, I think Mahomes kind of had to win that game, given that Brees beat the Rams. I know one was home, one was road, but Drew Brees is and should be in the driver's seat. He is our most valuable player so far, leading our PFF WAR metric thus far. Okay, the battle for third. Todd Gurley, I hate to say it, is not there. I think we saw exactly why last night. They didn't run the ball. They didn't need to because they were trying to score points, and you score points and you win games by throwing the football effectively. With all due respect to Todd Gurley, who I think is a phenomenal athlete and a great running back.
Great player, yep.
But when it comes to value, it's not just who is the best. It is who is the most valuable, who contributes the most to winning games. So, the battle for third, I think it comes down to Rivers and Goff. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Goff is generating 0.27 expected points added per play. He has a relatively high number of negatively graded throws versus guys like Mahomes and Brees. But as we saw last night, he can make those big throws when he's needed. They knew going into the game that they needed to score enough points to keep up with Kansas City. Instead of turning to the run game, they passed the ball. They passed the ball early. They passed the ball late, probably too much at the end there. And Goff delivered in every aspect. I think he's probably third with a bullet here. Philip Rivers has been terrific so far this year. 0.28 expected points added every time he drops back, limiting the turnover-worthy plays that have sometimes been his Achilles heel. So he's very much in the conversation as well. The Chargers' relative lack of team success might keep him from that spot, though.
Relative lack of team success is why I would actually say that Philip Rivers should be the third most valuable player, but it's very hard to untangle coaching and scheme with the quarterback. I think Jared Goff is fantastic, but there is no doubt in my mind that what he is working with in Sean McVay and that offense is better than what Philip Rivers has to work with. The Rams are running play action better than anyone in the NFL, and they're doing it more than anyone in the NFL. They've figured that out. They run bunched formations more than anyone else in the NFL. They're incredibly successful off of them. Their offense is just at a different click than Philip Rivers is, and I think Rivers probably in Goff's situation has a fair bit of success. I know that's just my opinion. So Goff, I believe, given that you can't really untangle that, should be in third, but Rivers, a little unfair. It's kind of been the story of Rivers' career, I guess, to this point. We're going to talk about one more thing here, but before we do, you can bet on something like this at mybookie.ag, and it's a great way to keep things exciting as you head towards the end of the season. Maybe your top team isn't in anymore. Whether it's football futures, football games, individual players, or a totally different sport, mybookie.ag has got you covered. Use promo code PFF to get a $1 for $1 match on your first deposit. Mybookie.ag is the best place to make that happen. Use promo code PFF, as I said. Play, win, and get paid. All right, quarterbacks are fun, but there's other players on the field. Most valuable non-quarterback is who?
Yeah, I think it's, he's struggled recently, but he did run up the score so much early in the season. I think it's Adam Thielen of Minnesota. The Vikings have been, pretty successful as a passing game despite a poor offensive line, which was on display Sunday night, despite the fact that Kirk Cousins has struggled at times. Adam Thielen really carried that offense early on. He, by our WAR metric, is the most valuable non-quarterback. However, I think over the past 7 games and as they put themselves in position to win the AFC South, I think, who ends the season as the most valuable non-quarterback is probably DeAndre Hopkins of the Houston Texans.
Wide receiver number 1, DeAndre Hopkins. He is the best receiver in the NFL. He will be by the end of the season in terms of value as well. DeAndre Hopkins would be my pick. If I'm going to the defensive side of the ball, this one is not even particularly close. It is Aaron Donald by a mile. The most impactful, the most valuable defensive player. What he is doing from an interior position, which we actually know generates a little bit less value than the edge position, is incredible. To be able to generate that much value as an interior pass rusher. He's getting double teamed or given help on his blocks on nearly 60%, and he's still generating a ridiculous number of pressures, leads the NFL in pressures and sacks. So it is hard to get away from Aaron Donald as Defensive Player of the Year, certainly, but should he be in that MVP conversation, I think he at least warrants it given how much he's dominated that position. Certainly above a running back or a player that isn't actually that valuable in terms of winning football games. All right, for more, head to ProFootballFocus.com and of course, subscribe to the PFF Forecast.